Hey Nathan,
Hello, Michael. 7 o'clock. Not everybody is here.
messing with my audio.
What's that?
I'm just messing with my audio.
I can still hear you loud and clear. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's not in here.
Oh,
Hey Nathan, say
okay.
something.
Can you hear me now in your headphones?
Uh,
Now we can't hear
Weird.
you. Oh, we can kind
That's better. Okay.
of. Okay. Tom,
Hey Nate.
Pete,
Hey everybody.
Mateo. Congratulations on your new gig.
It still needs to be approved by the select board next week, but um,
Oh, well, I would have wanted to
I'm confident that
congratulate you before it's a done deal.
I just want things to go smoothly for the town.
No, no, that's good. I mean it's
Not for the election. Is that what
Yeah,
we're talking about? Thank
yeah.
you.
well, yeah.
Just to have somebody there doing that at the very least for the election.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do anything else, just the election stuff.
Famous last words.
I'm not going to do anything else besides the elections, dog tags, vital records, but nothing else.
So we're just waiting a moment to see if we can get a few more members to join. We can make quorum with Tom if need be, but I'm gonna just give it a minute. Mm. Pretty warm today out, huh?
And tomorrow it's going to be warm too. Warmer.
I saw that.
Warm and muddy.
Very muddy. Yes.
Yeah. With my kids, I constructed a big snow fort in the front yard, and it's still hanging tough, but I know it's not long for this world. All right, time being 7:03, I will call this meeting of the Shutesbury Planning Board to order. I'll note that the meeting is being recorded. Present, we have Michael DeCiara, Keith Hasty, Ashley Pycroft, Jeff Weston, and Tom Seifert, who I will um, assign to act as a full member. Matteo Bengalo, our clerk, is here. We have some members of the public. At this time, would any member of the public, or anyone for that matter, like to make public comment? And I'll qualify that as a public comment not related to our proposed bylaw amendment on data centers. Okay, we're hearing and seeing none. I will inquire as to whether or not anyone might be here for landowner education and guidance. Okay, hearing and seeing none. We've got, we gave ourselves a little extra leeway room for this public hearing, and here it is 7:05, and we've got air in the agenda. Do we want to try and do the minutes from February real quick?
I'll move to approve the minutes of February 9th, 2026.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have Dick Kira moving, Seifert seconding a motion to approve the draft minutes from February 9th, 2026. Any discussion?
I had one substantive thing. It's on the top of page 4. The second paragraph is when Jeff asks Lenny about the tankers for the fire department. And the way it was written, it just said Sawonka describes them. And I thought what was be helpful to put in the minutes is that Sawonka states there are 2 engines for a total capacity of 3,000 gallons. I think was the reason behind the question. I think there might have been one typo. Oh yeah, actually very significant. The first line, so what page is this? The first line on page 2, when Lenny starts talking to us, it says Murphy asked about the enforcement of NFPA, and it only says 55, not 855. So just to correct that.
Mateo, do you have these already incorporated into the draft, or
I don't have them in, right? But Michael did send them to me by email, so I'll put them in.
Keith?
Yeah, I can never find the icon hand. I don't have a copy of it up in front of me right now. Somewhere, I think it's about the same place where Michael just noted the tanker discussion. Zerwanka stated something along the lines of the protocol. Current protocol is to let these things burn, and that you want them to burn hot and fast. I'm paraphrasing. And I thought a little clarification on the end of that sentence was the reason for wanting them, if they are burning, to burn hot and fast, is that there's less toxic emissions, less pollution. If the hotter a fire burns, the less emissions you get off of.
Yeah, that's the top of page 4. It's right above the part I talked about. So you're right.
All right, so we're just going to add burnout as hot and fast as possible to
minimize toxic emissions or something along those lines. That
yeah.
I think that was the rest of his statement.
Okay. All right, I've got that. Anything else? All right, I'll call the roll. Hasty,
Aye.
DeKiera,
Aye.
Pycroft,
Aye.
Seifert,
Aye.
Weston.
Aye.
I'll abstain, and the motion carries. The minutes from 2026 February 9th are approved. We've got some edits in.
Nice job, Nathan. 1 minute to go.
Right. I was noticing we did that right on time.
And all right. I'll email that to you, Mateo. They add it there. And it's 7:10, so I will open the hearing. Let's see. We're having a public hearing in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, and the Secretary and the Shutesbury zoning bylaw. The planning board will hold a public hearing to hear public comment on proposed amendment to the Shutesbury zoning bylaw that would add data centers to section 3.11 use table, section 13.2 definitions, and amend section 8.13 with language regulating data centers. At this time, I'd like to ask Michael to give an overview of the amendment, and then we'll open it up to public. Now, I'll also note that on the website, I noticed initially there was a version of the bylaw that had the comments from Donna, Town Council Incorporated already. I recently also just added the the unchanged version that we had. I guess it doesn't matter if you want to just, the high level stuff is all the same. If you want to kind of go through that, Michael. And
Yeah. Yeah, what I was thinking, tell me if you think this makes sense. Do a high level thing, have public comments, and then I can review Donna's suggestions.
yeah, well, I think
As opposed to doing them on the front end.
no, I wanted to do that. I wanted to do public comment and then open it up to the board. We could start with Donna's stuff. That makes sense. Yep.
Oh, I was gonna just do a high level thing, not Donna's stuff.
Right,
whatever.
yeah, high level
Yeah.
thing, just to review the amendment, and then
Okay.
we'll have anyone who wants to make a comment can make a comment. Once everyone wants to speak has spoken, then we can review Donna's stuff and anyone else that any other possible changes anyone might suggest.
Cool, that sounds good. Okay, so the planning board is following up at special town meeting in September. Town meeting passed a moratorium on data centers with the commitment that the planning board would come back with a fleshed out bylaw about data centers by town meeting of this year. So that's what this is. And this first thing we did is in the use table, we added two new uses, micro data centers and small data centers. We also added data center into the definitions of the zoning bylaw. So there would be a definition section. And then the main body of data centers is 8.13, which is a new section. And some of the things that we did, jumping back to the use table, is in the micro data centers, they were defined as 150 square feet, and small data centers were defined as 5,000 square feet, both of those maximum. And some of the things in the design, which we had a lot of discussion about, is we ended up agreeing that there'd be no extractive water in the design. So it would be air cooled, or if there was another way, but not extracting water. You could have a closed loop water if you wanted to. There'd be no PFAS for cooling. Backup systems would be prohibited from using gas or diesel, and there'd be no lithium-ion, nickel, manganese batteries for energy storage. Those are sort of the big design issues. We also addressed issues of lighting, signage, noise, visual impacts, driveway access, hours of operation. And then we had a range of requirements, which included the size of the lot, frontage, setbacks, etc. the size of the lot would be 90,000 square feet, which is consistent with the zoning bylaw. And then minimum setbacks would be 75 foot from the front and 75 foot from the side and rear. Let's see if there's anything else. I think, oh, one of the other important things is we're requiring emergency response plan, and if needed, an incident action plan, both in consultation with the fire chief and emergency management director, and the police chief for the emergency response. And I think that's probably the most substantive of the things. Everything else is, we can go into if there's questions, but I think that's it for now.
Thank you, Michael. This time I'd like to ask whether or not any member of the public would like to make a comment. Lewis Sanford.
No, other way around.
Oh, Sanford
Sanford
Lewis.
Lewis, hi. Thanks for working on this. I really appreciate your work on it. As it turns out, I've done some work in this area because I work with investors that have been dialoguing with some of the digital companies about data centers. So I have a really small amount of knowledge. So I have a bunch of questions, not really any particular critical comments, but just to say things that occur to me when I read this. One is, I'm wondering if the intent, and feel free to, I guess I'll just say my questions and then you guys can answer them if you want or whatever. They're nothing too difficult. One is the intent to ban or not allow larger than the operations that are described, or would somebody get a waiver in order to do that? To do a larger operation. I'm aware that some closed loop operations use cooling towers, so they might use half the amount of water that would be in a fully in another system. So that seemed like an issue. And then so you basically I don't, it's kind of. Oh, so what if somebody wants to use some water? Can they get a waiver? I'm concerned about the amount of energy demand that it could pose and how it compares with the town's energy consumption. And this has been a problem in other communities. So I realize that by scaling it down as you have, it's probably not as big a concern. I did some math on it. I guess you guys probably did some math to figure out how much energy consumption it could involve. So those were just things that occurred to me. I support what you're doing. Appreciate it.
Thank
Nathan,
you, Sanford.
do you want
I'll
me to
take
try to answer it, or would you?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at it, Michael. So with respect to, the size of the facility, there is a waiver provision included in this amendment that is similar to waiver provisions that are already in the zoning bylaw. And so it says that you can waive or modify things that are in here if the special circumstances of the site, its surroundings, or the proposal negate the need for the imposition of the requirement, or if it can be met in an alternative manner, and such a waiver does not degrade from the public purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw, and the waiver does not negate the provisions of this section below, which is some of the regulations contained in 8.13. So basically, if you have to meet that bar in order to get a waiver. So if someone just said, I want to make a really big data center, that they're not going to be able to obtain a waiver through this clause unless they meet those criteria there. The other thing to note is that while that waiver provision is applicable to the requirements laid out in section 8.13 regulating data centers, there are other provisions in the zoning bylaw that would be applicable that are not included under that waiver condition. For example, within the bylaw, there's a section on dimensions, which limits and I think, forest conservation zoning district limits the size of a building to 20,000 square feet in gross area.
Which is what, that's 4 times the size
It
of,
is, yes.
of this one, right? Um,
Can I
how
add
would
one
somebody,
thing?
oh, sorry,
Just
go
jump
ahead.
in, Seven. So this is one of the things that town council has suggested we put in there, but the suggestion was to have a statement in the size floor area section that basically says data centers over 5,000 square feet in floor area are prohibited, to make that clear. And by putting it in the particular location, it would make clear that that's the usual normal size, but also the discussion about waivers that we had is if there was an accessory building and it was like 5,100 square feet, that would be the kind of thing, but the norm would be 5,000 or close to it. Nothing that was monster.
So I was just going to ask, so how would, if somebody coupled this with a solar farm, so they're going to power it with solar energy, how would that change the equation, if at all?
The
That's a
the
difficult question to answer on the fly, I think. There
I
are,
feel like I could say something about that. Because
there are,
I brought that up, Sanford, thinking like, should we reference our solar bylaw, excuse me, or somehow consider that? And we talked about it. Um, we have an existing solar bylaw. So if I don't think we have any sort of provision in this bylaw related to the data centers acknowledging any connection. But if somebody did want to power their data center via solar, they would need to follow all the provisions in the solar bylaw.
And I think the other thing is that there's the concept of primary use versus accessory use. So if the primary use is a data center, the secondary use would be solar, to think about it that way. So you would get treated where solar was secondary. And if you had a data center and then you had a large solar installation, I think we'd have to figure out, is it really a secondary use, or are you sort of, is it a primary use? So that would be for the board to consider at the time based on, the dimensions and all.
well, also, I think, what I was starting to say was, the bylaw does contain, section 3.4 mixed use. Town of Shutesbury encourages the mixing of uses where such mixing does not create land use conflicts. Accordingly, all special permits and our site plan reviews for a single project with mixed uses shall, where practical, be consolidated into one proceeding. Right. So the bylaw does provide for mixed uses.
And you had a question about water, right?
Oh, well, I was impressed with how strict the water provision is. It's basically saying they can't, presumably they'd have to have, if there was, people on site, they'd need some level of water, a normal amount of water. But for the data center itself, you're saying no water, basically being drawn from the environment, which is very impressive. And I imagine somebody's going to try to get a waiver on that if they're going to say we're doing air cooling, but we're using towers or whatever, that, somebody's going to try to waive that. And I support the strict provision as it is. But I was curious about it.
Can you send us some information about towers when you get a chance?
Sure.
Great. Just be educational.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions, Sanford?
I don't have any others right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you
I
very
like
much.
the idea. I mean, I would
for-
just say I support the idea of trying to restrict these things to the 5,000 square foot as much as you can. So if there's ways that you can make it clear that that's really the top size that you think is appropriate, that would be better.
Very good. I also note as far as the energy use, we don't have any specific numbers or anything like that, right? That would be something that, we would have a chance to evaluate during a special permit proceeding.
Could I make a brief comment?
Yes.
It's hard to imagine having solar as even primary use for a data center. I've got 30 solar panels, and today is the first day in 3 months that I've gotten any electricity whatsoever, 30 kilowatts. And you can't run a data center on unreliable power. So to connect the two, I think would be folly unless you have a very powerful backup system. And we limit the backup system in this particular bylaw to 250 kilowatts, something like that, which is not a huge amount of power. So I don't think solar could be connected with this in Shutesbury, in Florida maybe, but not in Shutesbury.
To clarify that, I think the limitation of 250 kilowatts, that's applicable to was it any kind of batteries, right? Not necessarily
Right. That would be the storage capacity of a non-flammable lithium battery, or less flammable lithium battery.
Okay. Thank you, Jeff. Would anyone else from the public wish to make a comment? You'll have another chance, but since I'm not hearing anything at the moment, I'm going to read an email I received, the planning board received from Jeffrey and Andrea Rogers in response to a town announce communication that went out about the public hearing. Dear Nathan, thank you for putting together an amendment to regulate data centers. We cannot attend the hearing, but would like you to know that we support the amendment. We appreciate your effort. Andrea and Jeff Rogers. So that's just a note from another member of the community. Okay, I'm going to throw it out. Is there any other comments from members of the public?
Yeah, my name is Mare Fox. Where's my video? I live at Lake Wyola, so I was looking at it from that perspective. And I don't have it I'm trying to get it in front of me, so I think I'm just going to go off screen while I look at my question. So it says a micro data center, which is 150 square feet or less in floor area, would be permitted by site plan review, subject to site plan review by the planning board or the zoning board of appeals. And then further on, it says that trying to tick and tie this all together, that noise, which would be I think it's H. It shall be minimized during construction and operation to protect public health, welfare, and quality of life. Noise, either episodic or continual during both construction and operation, shall comply with Massachusetts DEP noise regulations. And I actually haven't looked that up, but I guess my question would be that if it's allowed at the lake, how close would it be to, if it's 150 square feet, what would be the proportion of the lot size that it would have, that's the part I'm not clear on. Like, what size lot do you have to have one of these? if you're at Lake Wyola, since it's a concentrated area of people. One and two, um, my understanding of these data centers, and I'm only just getting into it, is that there's a continual hum. So it might not necessarily be that it's a loud noise, but it's still something that, from my observations of, or my understanding of reading things online, could still really get in your head. So what without having looked at the DEP's regulation, does it address something along those lines? And that's one question. And then the second question is that what percentage of the lot size would that 150 square feet be considered?
Well, under dimensional requirements, lot size, the size of the lot used for a data center, regardless of district, shall be 90,000 square feet.
Okay. I didn't see
Minimum
that.
setbacks for data centers, street setback 75 feet, side and rear property line setback 75 feet. And to your question about noise, I don't think that it would address something like a dull humming, the state regs or even the local noise ordinance. I mean, it's akin to people, just normal heating and cooling for houses. I mean, houses are, a couple thousand square feet, right? So if you're talking about a 150 square foot area, that's I don't think you're really talking about anything that's going to be more than the kind of things you would hear just already at the lake. But there would be well,
So for instance, when people lose power here at the lake, there's a certain number of people have automatic generators and they kick on, right? So I am a significant distance from those people. I don't have really good hearing, but I can hear that and I know exactly when the power has come on and off. So what about people, because we are in a concentrated district, how far would would notice be required to any abutters? Um, and how far would that go? Would it go as far as the noise goes? I guess that's my question.
well, with a micro data center, it's a site plan review, which doesn't require notice.
Okay.
I
Yep.
don't believe, right? Is that
Nice.
true?
And can I just add one thing?
Please.
So with the DEP regs, I actually looked at them this morning, and so I could find them easily. What it talks about is that to be compliant with the DEP regs, whatever the source is, can't increase more than 10 decibels from the facility during operating hours at the property line. So it's not very much. I mean, I couldn't quantify like equivalent to what it is, but looking at other things, I was just reading something and there was a report that said that on average, the noise from a solar installation, a larger one, is about 50. So it's significant. Keith might know.
Yeah, I'm just thinking off the top of my head when we were talking about the wind turbine. And it's a dB increase above ambient. Is that right?
Yeah.
So like on a breezy day, actually when Michael and I were doing the wind turbine thing, I downloaded an app and went outside on a breezy day, and just on my back porch was like 50 or 60 dB just from the breeze. And I think the DEP, the noise reg, is that, so if you're in a quiet neighborhood, even I guess a subtle hum might be detectable. But if you have neighbors that have heat pumps and stuff like that, whether it rises to the level of a nuisance or not, I guess is questionable.
Thank you. Henry, I see you have your hand up, and we're gonna come your way once we wrap up with Mayor, all right? Now, Mayor, at this time, having had some questions answered, would you like to say anything pertaining to the bylaw? Any further comment?
No, I think that well, yes. Okay. So I guess I would like to know if there were, how many parcels of land at the Lake Wildwood District that this would apply to. There's a parcel of land that's, I think, about 14 acres over on the other side of the lake, Lakeview Drive, buffered by the dirt part of Wendell Road and then Shore Drive. And that would be like a primary place that something like that could happen, or go in, no notice, and people. I guess the notice part is the biggest thing. Is that I really think that when you're dealing with a concentrated area like the Lake Wyola district, that I think notice is really important to have, so that people can be aware of what's going on in their neighborhood. Because it's not like the rest of Shutesbury where, people could have several acres of land and you're buffered by trees and I don't know. I think it's just a different consideration, and that's my question, is that do you know offhand how many parcels are above 90,000 square feet at the lake?
I don't.
Okay. So I guess that's my question, is that why was this, where did this come from? Who came up with that
The
as a
idea of a site plan
consideration?
review.
Yeah, that it's just a site plan review.
I think the thinking behind it was that for the micro ones, because they're small, when we started this process, I think it was actually around special town meeting. Gail Huntress, representing the municipal light plant, said, that the town has extra capacity. And so if someone came knocking at the door, they could add capacity easily there. And then actually by the definition, if the school was to add, more computer storage or whatever, technically that would be a data center. So for those kind of uses or implementations, we didn't want to make it a whole big special permit process, where we were very clear we didn't want to make it by right, where there was no specifications. So it still had to meet all the specifications. It's just a lower bar in terms of the process. So I think that was the thinking behind it. In fact, that was the thinking behind it.
I mean, keep in mind, what is it, 150 square feet? I mean, that's a 10 by 15 foot room. That's the size of a moderate bedroom or living room. So
I understand that. I mean, I live on a dead end. I butt up against conservation land, but I have my property. I share lines with one, two, three, five other people, and that's not. There's others that have even more neighbors, and I just think it's a different consideration. But that's
Can I
my
ask a
2
question?
cents.
Just to Nathan, I mean, I think we can write in for the process if we wanted to, that it's site plan review, but that, notice to abutters is required. There's nothing to say that we couldn't do that, right?
So, yeah.
I don't know, but I think we should discuss it after we go
Yeah.
through comments.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
we made
Good
note of
point.
that.
So,
Good point, yeah.
and it's coming from a perspective of that the regs were changed years ago to allow people to tear down a house and go up, build another house brand new with no notice to abutters and obtain a permit. So yet if somebody had an existing house and they wanted to put a second floor on, they would have to inform all their neighbors. So that loophole has changed Lake Wyola greatly and created a lot of big, a lot of large houses down here. But it's I think just the lake requires a little bit different consideration, because it is so concentrated. So just, that's my 2 cents worth, and thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Henry.
Yes, good
Well-
evening. I wanted to commend you for the effort here. I was a bit concerned about the noise factor and maybe offer some observations. I noticed in the text that the only real provision for a distance from this one of these micro or small scale data centers is one for the visual element, 30 feet. Am I right? I read that. In other words, it has to be 30 feet and it has to be a buffer. Yes, trees, whatever. But there's no provision for the noise factor of the same sort. And I'm just wondering, given that you probably don't know what these things sound like, yes? Has anybody looked or researched the sound levels of these things and how they might carry in a forest, for example? So that it might be possible to have in the text some provision for testing, up front, but that they meet certain requirements for decibels, but also after construction and if necessary, mitigation of such noise. I don't know, it might be more complicated than it's worth, but noise travels in forest. I know, I play music outside and people hear it way away, far away. So that's something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Henry. That's much appreciated. Is there anything else you'd like to speak to at this time? All right. I see Sanford is back with his hand up.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So I just asked AI about noise from a 500 square foot data center, and I want to read you what I just found. So I'm more concerned about this issue than ever as I hear about it. So, AI could be hallucinating, might not be right, but this is what AI just told me. A 500 square foot data center can produce significant noise with exterior sound levels typically ranging between 55 and 85 decibels, comparable to a loud humming, a vacuum cleaner, or a power lawnmower. Even small high-density data centers can produce noise that is noticeable and disruptive to neighbors, particularly at night. Key noise factors for small data centers: constant drone. Data centers operate 24/7, and the cooling systems create a continuous low-frequency hum that is difficult to shield. HVAC systems, blah, blah, blah. While they're smaller, 500 square foot facility is smaller than major data centers, the noise can travel significant distances, especially in quiet residential or rural areas. And then it says many community noise regulations set maximum limits at 50 to 60 dB, which data center noise can sometimes exceed. So there you go. So I'm concerned about it, and I'm particularly concerned that, you get this thing in there and then it turns out to be producing more noise than you expected or than they projected, and then we're stuck with it. And it's hard to shut something like this down once there's significant investment. So I see significant reason for caution about this noise issue, which I think could be a problem. And I'd like to make sure that if there is a 500 square foot proposal, that we have adequate opportunity as a community to probe that issue in particular.
Thank you. Anybody else? Member of the public to provide comment?
If I can say something, I'm a little bit confused. Mayor said 150 square feet, and then Henry said 500 square feet. I thought it was 5,000 square feet. So I'm confused about the numbers that are being spoken here.
Jeff, I think it was Sanford who said 500, and I think he just researched it just quickly with that random number somewhere in between to get some information.
Okay,
So
but
I underestimated it significantly, sorry.
and I think Mayor was talking about 150 square feet.
Right, which is in our bylaw and which is in the bylaw we're discussing. 150 being micro, and then the 5,000 square foot being the largest that we would allow.
Mhm. Okay, so the largest is actually 5,000. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, not 150 or not 500. We're talking about 5,000. I just want to clarify that for myself and see if I was missing anything.
But in Lake Wyola district, we are talking about 150 square feet.
So I'm sorry, Nathan, go ahead.
But, you know, with Mayor's comments and questions pertaining to the, you know, as the draft currently stands, you know, having the micro data centers allowable by site plan review in all districts, including Lake Wyola. So that is 150 square feet. Sanford's comments regarding his AI research were about a facility that was 500 square feet.
Mhm. So am I
Well-
missing? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Henry, again, if you don't mind.
I don't mind.
Well, I just did the same search for 150, and it says generally it ranges from between 75 and 85 dB. And could peak to 90 dB. So, yeah.
So I can't remember.
Similar numbers to 500 square.
Yeah, 150 square foot now. Yeah.
150 square foot, similar numbers.
Mhm.
And
Or decibels.
excuse me for not being completely aware. Is the size in Lake Wyola smaller than the rest of the town? Okay, I'm sorry.
What's the question, Jeff?
Michael shook his head. Yes, so the size in Lake Wyola would be different, 150 square feet, Michael, and the size in the rest of the town would be 5,000.
Currently we don't allow a small one, the larger version in Lake Wyola district, just the micro. So we're not changing. There's still just only 2 tiers, but in Lake Wyola, the larger tier is prohibited.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Is there a reason you have to have the larger tier in this bylaw? Was there like a legal reason or policy reason?
Well, the reason was to let's see what do we have for our purpose. Purpose of the bylaw is to provide reasonable regulation that strikes a balance between protecting the public health, safety, or welfare of Shutesbury residents and reasonable development that supports the vitality of the community. So I think, you know, the idea was that, you know, we came up with a regulation that, you know, doesn't, we don't prohibit it outright. You know, we've got a lot of criteria in here so that, you know, if somebody came with an application to build a data center that was, you know, 5,000 square feet or less, they could do it with a special permit if the board finds that their application adheres to this bylaw, right?
Okay, I'm just learning about this. I want to say that if this bylaw comes up in town meeting, I'm going to oppose the larger tier and try to strike it from the bylaw. I don't think we should have an operation of that scale.
Thank you.
Add one more thing too, because the way that this is, well, can I just add one more thing too? I should before I get going. But the way this is all written is that, you know, during construction, the noise should be minimized, in operation, it should be minimized. But nobody's going to know about it until it's already allowed. And then what is the recourse after that? So I guess I just don't understand why I forgetting, I mean, not just the Lake Wyola district, but based on what Henry's saying, you know, and what Sanford's saying, that why not town-wide require that there be notice to all abutters, so that they are aware before and could attend, because otherwise, how would they know until after it's approved? Right?
Fair comment. Diane and Greg Adams, I see you made it. I read your email out loud earlier. I don't know if you were here already.
I think that was somebody else's email you read.
Oh, you know what? It was. I apologize.
Mr. Rogers, that's okay. I did hear that.
I don't know why I confused that. But.
That's okay. My question is there a limit to the number of data centers that will be allowed in Shutes Ferry? I know that the size is very concerning. I love Shutes Ferry as a natural, peaceful place for families to, you know, thrive, and I am concerned with large data centers and the need for them. I did hear Michael say that we might need one for the school, but I mean, how many would be allowed? I would really feel so disheartened and worried if there were many around.
To answer your question, Diane, there is no limitation imposed in the proposed amendment. And I think probably the reason for this is because there's a provision in the Zoning Act, which is, you know, the Mass General laws that requires uniformity across districts. So imposing limitations on the number of a certain kind of use, as a fixed number in the bylaw, I think could be problematic legally. Now, having said that, if the thing is going to be greater than 150 square feet, it requires a special permit, and the special permit is also a construct of the Zoning Act, and it allows for discretion of the planning. In this case, the planning board is the special permit granting authority, and it's, you know, the special permit is intended so that you can say, all right, you know, we want to, you know, we acknowledge that we may need to, you know, have a certain use or want to allow a certain use within a zoning district. But we also acknowledge that we wouldn't want this use to be, you know, built on every parcel in that zoning district. All right, so that's where that discretion comes in, so that the board is there to evaluate a given proposal and say, all right, you know, maybe you do meet, you know, the criteria that's in here, but it's, you know, we had a data center go in, you know, next door last year, you know, neighbors are already complaining about it, or the noise, or things have gone awry, and now we're just thinking, you know, this is, you know, if we are able to make findings that, you know, that approving the project is not a benefit to the town or to public welfare and health, and you know, we're well within our power to decline to approve a special permit application for any use.
Do all towns and municipalities have to approve some data centers? I mean, could we be data center free?
We could be data center free. There's no protection for the a data center in state law. As there is with, for example, solar or educational facilities, daycare centers, that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Now, Tom, I see your hand up. Are you, did you have a comment on something somebody said, or are you,
I did actually. I wanted to ask you if it was okay if I could ask you whether I'm allowed to ask Mr. Lewis just to clarify what he said so I understood it correctly. Was he talking, is that okay if I do that for a quick
Yeah.
second? Oh, thanks. Okay. I just wasn't sure.
if he's willing
Protocol.
to engage with you, yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask him if he meant in the last bit that he spoke about, he would support up to 150 square feet, but not above that. Is that another way to say what he was saying?
Yeah,
I just
that's
wanted
what
to
I'm
know where you were
thinking.
drawing the line at the different categories of size.
That's right. Yeah, no, that's what I'm
Okay.
thinking right now. I'm doing research now, and I'm learning that like Fairfax, Virginia has a 200-foot buffer to any residential areas. I don't know how that would apply here or whether that would apply, but I thought that was interesting. So like I'm still learning about it, but my inclination is to think that 5,000 square feet seems large, but I'm like also imagining like what if it were far from any residences? Maybe I could imagine, you know, up, up by the power lines or something like that. There might be, a place where where the noise wouldn't really be bothering people. But I'm really concerned about, if this is too close to people's homes and suddenly, we all live out here because we like how quiet it is. Suddenly you have like a nonstop whirring and whining sound in your neighborhood. That just doesn't seem right for Shutesbury, frankly.
All right. Thank you. All right, Henry, go ahead.
Yeah, just I think it's important to distinguish, the frequency of the noise here is critical. I just did a very cursory search on it. The fans produce low frequency noise that travels much further than high frequencies and has greater effect on humans and animals and that kind of thing. So it's something. In other words, that's one of the what people apparently complain most about is the low frequency noise, which is often not very perceptible, but certainly has an effect. So it's something to look into, I think.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Is there anyone in the public that we have not heard from who wishes to make a comment? Anyone in the public at all that maybe has already spoken? I'll say last call for questions before I start going to the board, and we'll have we have some questions we need to talk about. Last call for questions. Okay, hearing and seeing none, then I suppose it's time to discuss and hear about our review with Town Council Donna McNichol. Michael is sharing.
Yeah. Can you all see that? Oh, hold on. It's the wrong one. There we go.
Michael, I was wondering why, what is the deal with the comments there and why we wouldn't,
I'm going to explain the comments now. I think it makes sense to just do the comments
okay.
and read them. It seemed like doing it in public session was a little bit better. So Nathan and I met with Donna, I don't know, about a month ago at this point. He wasn't able to stay the whole meeting. I was with, and so some of these things he's heard and other things he received the comments just like everybody else. So the first comment is up here, where basically Donna suggested that given the specs that we had for the small data centers, i.e. the larger ones, that she thought that they should be prohibited in town centers as well as like Loyola. She just didn't think that it would make sense to have them there, given what we were talking about. So that was her first recommendation. And maybe Nathan, I'll just go through stop at each one. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to go through them all?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, just
not-
go through them all before we talk about them, I guess. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. So under definitions, she made a recommendation based on data center research that she's had from other towns that the definition should also include cooling systems, security systems. So that was under definitions. In terms of applicability, she just suggested different language, the extent permitted by law, which gets to the intent. She and Nathan and I talked it through, and she said it better reflects the intent and is more clear. So that was that suggestion. This I mentioned earlier when we were talking. She had suggested putting in data centers over 5,000 square feet in floor area prohibited and putting it here because this way it's allowed to have the waiver position address it in 813C. So it's still part of the same thing. Under cooling, she just added this suggestion. Cause air temperature at the property line to be warmer than the anticipated average ambient air temperature such that it creates negative impacts for an abutter or the natural environment. Moving on, under electrical storage, she just added direct negative impacts are not limited to noise. She suggested basically being more specific. So even though we said that include but are not limited to, that we should say air or water contamination, fire, or other disruptions to the surrounding environment. Following that, although we cite NFPA 855 and the Mass Fire Code, she said in all other regulations just to be comprehensive. And then we talked a lot about the internal and external, and for consistency of the reader in 4A, she suggests saying internal and external because in 4B we talk about external. So it's more consistent terminology. Doesn't change the substance of it. Under visual impact, she just suggested doing to comply with this bylaw. It seems straightforward. There's a few more coming up. Yeah, so this was a good point. She basically said, especially because she did a hugely deep dive in terms of battery energy storage and stormwater for the town of Orange, which she represents. She made the point that stormwater best practices are designed to put water back into the ground, but you don't want that to be the case if the water is contaminated. So she suggested adding stormwater management systems should be designed to prevent any potential contaminated water or runoff from entering on-site or adjacent drinking water sources, including aquifers, streams, ponds, etc. Let's see. Under wetlands, she just suggested that we make it all streams, not just perennial streams. And then requirements regarding installation of the perimeter fencing. She, instead of having it be a dwelling, she said abutting property because dwelling is too limited. It's just a use as opposed to abutting property. Under safety and emergency requirements, she basically said that we should expand it to have any other information requested by the fire chief, police chief, or emergency management director. Emergency response plans should include provisions for avoiding the risk of surface and groundwater contamination, not minimizing it. And then with the PFAS, the next line, she said the application of PFAS containing agents for firefighting and heat suppression is prohibited unless waived by the planning board. She was really clear that the planning board can say what's prohibited, but by doing this wording, it allows the planning board to have subsequent conversations if we're having a discussion about a special permit with the fire department. So we could waive it if the fire department said they wanted us to. So that was she was acknowledging an interest in waiving, but also was confirming that we do have the right to prohibit, and this is the way to address it. Appurtenances, the driveways and appurtenances, including any electrical, energy, or data storage structures. That's in relation to information in the site plan. We're almost there. Reliability of insurance, rather than have an amount, she suggested liability insurance shall be the amount satisfactory to the planning board, which allows us to negotiate and feel comfortable with what we end up with. And then again, based on her work with Bess and Orange, she suggested that we require as a submission a hydrology report, a report by a qualified professional with demonstrated knowledge in hydrogeology, that provides the planning board with information regarding drinking water sources and recharge areas on site and within 400 feet of the property lines, so that we have a sense of what's happening with the water. And then she focused on abandonment, and it turns out that there's 3 different parties that can determine if something is abandoned. So it can be the building inspector, it can be the select board, or it can be the Board of Health. And so she suggested naming those and then collectively calling that the town, so that any of those 3 actors could take action in terms of abandonment. And then finally, she suggests we have a severability section at the end, so that if the AG decides that they don't like one of these parts, that the whole thing doesn't get thrown out. So that is what she suggested. So I can go to the beginning if that would be helpful. And Nathan, you can tell me how you want to proceed with this.
Well, I think we've kind of like heard that. I before we get into the nuts and bolts of what Donna, the changes pertaining to legal review, I just want to open it up to the board to see if there's anything anybody wants to add to the conversation.
And one quick thing, I had the document you're staring at on my screen as well as one with the comments, and I realized I was scrolling to the wrong one, so I apologize. I thought you were seeing all the things I was talking about.
I thought we were.
I was able to follow.
I think
Oh,
we
good.
were, Michael.
Oh,
seeing it.
that's great. Huh. Fascinating. Okay.
And you can.
Stop sharing?
No, well, I was going to say you could leave it up if anyone wanted to,
Yeah.
kind of look at something. But I just want to open it up to the board and see if anyone wants to say anything before we get into. Jeff is clapping. I see. I don't know if
I'm
he's-
sorry. I didn't mean to clap. I meant to put my hand up.
Okay.
And I don't. Oh, sorry.
There it is.
2 questions, if I could.
Yes.
With the what we went through with the solar panels in the Dover Amendment, we were required to have bylaws, which I know that may become obsolete shortly, to not prohibit solar panels. I know that was a requirement, and that's why we wrote the bylaw as we did. My question is there something that is preventing us from outlawing these data centers completely from Shutesbury? And in my opinion, and I said this when we talked about data centers in the beginning, I'm completely against data centers in Shutesbury. And it seems to me the people who came from Shutesbury, I didn't hear too many positive comments about data centers from them. And I live in Shutesbury, and I'm very much against them. So I'm wondering, obviously it's just one vote, I'm wondering if there's anything that would prevent us from saying no data centers allowed in our town. How about that? And those are my comments.
Thank you, Jeff. I would say probably nothing preventing us from doing that. And We were close to that state, previously with, a possible loophole at, if the planning board were, inclined to allow a data center as a light industrial use. So,
I would second Jeff's proposal to put it out there that Shutesbury is a data center free community.
now at this point, I do want to hear from the board. We've had, ample time for the, public to comment, and, I think if the board wants to have a conversation, I think, I'm willing to open it back up to, the public if you have a question on, something specific. But I'd like to, allow this to, our process to continue to the board side this time, for at least a little while. So Jeff has spoken. Is there anyone else that wants to say anything on the, Ashley?
So, something that I heard tonight, well, there's a couple things I heard tonight that I think are compelling, and I'm wondering about the process of adding them in. Obviously, the timeline is short because town meeting's coming. And so whatever we do needs to be done quickly. One thing is I would feel more comfortable adding in a requirement for abutters to be notified. There's a lot in these bylaws, and I think it's okay to say I wish I had been more mindful of that. If this was happening next to me and people were talking about it and considering permitting such a thing, of course I would want to know. That's how I would know to show up at meetings. So that's my first thing. The second piece, just to give a little background, we did do a lot of research on this, and we looked into sort of this idea of edge data centers. And there's been a lot of conversation about, who in what kind of organization would want to build a data center in Shutesbury, considering where we are. And we considered, of course, the university maybe might want to do an edge data center, and edge data centers tend to be smaller. So this is, I think, one of the reasons we came up with the 5,000 square foot number. So just all things that we're considering, and I think I lost the last thing I want to say. So for right now, I would feel more comfortable having something in there for abutters. I would like abutters to be notified if this was being considered. Is that something that we can do? Can we add that in at this point? Yeah, Michael, you're nodding your head, yes.
I don't see why not.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Nathan, I don't think can use the raise hand function while I'm sharing. I think they presume I have the floor, so I'm raising my hand.
Yeah. Would you want to speak, Michael, or?
Yeah. I just wanted to provide, I guess, a couple of comments.
Or before you do, I just want to,
Okay.
just Ashley's thing about, requiring notice. Yeah, Michael may be right. We may be able to. I think it's a good question to ask. That's. I would certainly, just from a process perspective, hesitate to have a bylaw where for some site plan reviews, notice of abutters is required, but others, it's not. But it's certainly something we can look into. And just one more comment before Michael. So we have the public hearing now, and we're going to meet again in April, where we're going to want to finalize a report to town meeting, and we we do have time. I mean, certainly ideally we'll finalize a draft to send to the select board to hopefully have, represent on the warrant by our meeting in April. But if we were to, I think we could even make further changes after that. It would just be, the motion would be something different than is printed on the warrant, and that would be a lot more printing. But there is, we do have time now. Michael.
Well, thank you. So I think just sort of for benefit of the, the residents who are commenting, the history of it was, we had the moratorium at September town meeting, and then we agreed to sort of have a conversation. As Jeff likes to say, we don't all have the same perspectives on the planning board. And I think, personally, I would have been very happy just to ban them. But I think we tried as a board to sort of find a middle ground that sort of reflected various perspectives. And I think where we landed was okay in terms of having the micro, which is a very clear message from the municipal light plant and potentially the school. The micro are really small. And then the smaller that we allowed in 3 districts instead of 4. I think Donna's point about maybe not allowing them in town center is something we should consider. I think the things that got raised are really important though. So the notice, I would support noticing for this. And I think to Mayor's comment, those who are on the board, we spent a lot of time talking about the increased height issues at Lake Wyola, if you remember a few years ago. We had very long meetings with the ZBA. It could be that we just, we could fix this. We could put notices in here for this, but then we could revisit it next year and maybe change the whole process for site plan review to require butters notices. It seems like that's a reasonable thing, but that would be a subsequent conversation. And then for noise, what struck me just in terms of, because I think, we did struggle a little bit with the wind turbine at Sirius. And there was one thing that Donna had put in here for cooling, which I thought was good language. Where what I read before was, in terms of cooling, a data center shall not cause air temperature at the property line to be warmer than anticipated average ambient air temperature, such that it creates negative impacts for an abutter or the natural environment. And so, because I think noise is so tricky, if we had similar language around noise, it would be, it's subjective, but I think noise is a tricky one. But if we put it in there, it would give us the ability to sort of talk to an applicant, if we had an applicant, about what that would mean and sort of dig deeper, but it's a placeholder about noise. But I would like to just sort of figure out how we address noise, because I think those are the 2 things we heard. And I think just in terms of, I see you, Keith, your hands up. I think in terms of process, Nathan, just to sort of pick up on that, like we could vote tonight on a version that we moved to the select board. We could also have another meeting later in March if we wanted to check with Donna and sort of revisit it. But I think we do have time to just to sort of confirm, what you said. So I'm done, and I think I'm not sharing, so I can raise my hand next time if I need to.
Do you think that it's late to go to our regular April meeting?
I think, well, given the context of our report to town meeting, so like there was one time when I first got on the planning board where we met. The planning board's allowed to make an oral report to town meeting if we don't submit it like within 10 days prior to town meeting. And so we've done that. We've also met the morning of town meeting, I think it was planning board, to agree to a report, like what we were going to say. So we could do the last minute stuff, but I think given, if we're all on the same page about what.
We're talking April's a full month before town meeting.
That's true. Yeah. April's fine.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So April's good.
Yeah.
Keith.
Yeah. Back to the noise thing, which I do think that I'm glad the people that brought that up did bring it up, because I don't know that we really thought about it all that much. So the DEP noise reg talks about at the property line, if I'm not mistaken, right? So, and again, that's where noise gets tricky. Are you measuring dBs at the unit itself, or are you measuring it at the property line, or are you measuring it at the dwelling on the adjacent property? So I think the DEP rule, again, I'm sure they put thought into how to articulate and accommodate the fact that we all have different sensitivities to noise, but we all live in an environment with other humans that we all make noise of some kind or another. The other thing is that in section C of this thing, the project specific requirements, we do have a clause in there that says the planning board may require a noise assessment to be conducted at the applicant's expense. So we do give ourselves some room to, if we think there may be noise issues, to ask for a better assessment. So for what it's worth.
Thank you. Jeff?
As we are all volunteer elected officials, I feel like to represent the people that voted for me, I feel like it would be in the best interest to have another proposal in addition to the one that we're possibly going to have. And that proposal would say that there will be no data centers in Shutesbury. That would be a second proposal. So if the first one, we'll see what happens with the town voting for the first one, that's fine. But I think the second one should be no data centers. And if we're not required to have one, I think it is absolutely foolish to have a data center in Shutesbury. And I think there were two reasons why this whole idea came up. One was because we were contacted by someone who we don't know about, do you have a bylaw about data centers, and we didn't. And the second, that there were planning board members who wanted to have the possibility of having an additional income source in Shutesbury, which is reasonable considering the taxes and the financial stress that we're in, many people in Shutesbury. But however, we aren't, in my judgment, I'm speaking for myself, but as a representative of the people who voted for me, I feel like the possible financial gains of having a data center, however many dollars that would be, and it wouldn't be very much, would be far more detrimental than actually, would be far worse to have a data center than to change the life of anyone who's chosen to live in Shutesbury for the reasons that we live in Shutesbury, the forest and the quiet. So I think it would surprise me that the town would vote for having bylaws for a data center versus a bylaw saying no data center whatsoever. So that would be my vote. And I'll forego the few dollars that I might gain from a possible data center. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Thank you, Jeff. Okay, Keith?
Just to revisit, my memory of how this discussion started was, again, the consultant that contacted all the towns asking about data center bylaws. And in our early discussions, we, the planning board, talked about the town's financial situation, and that was before the FinCom has had a couple of meetings telling us that the writing on the wall is worse than earlier projected. And we thought amongst us that a data center, especially one limited in size to, again, the size of the new library is basically what 5,000 square feet is. That's kind of how we came at that size, thinking that was something that fit in the landscape of Shutesbury. It wasn't a mega structure that wasn't out of character with our town and other structures in our town. And we thought that there might be potential for it to do good for the town. It's a relatively benign, it may make noise, but it's not a aluminum smelter. It's not a gravel pit. It's not a lot of things. And I think as a board, we went through and developed these regs or proposed regs as a way of limiting it to fit the scale of the town and be protective of the town, the health, safety, and welfare and rural character, and still allow the potential for some economic activity in this town other than property taxes. And Jeff, might it disturb somebody in town? I don't know. You know what else disturbs somebody in town? If we have to lay off town employees because we don't have the budget to afford them, or if we have to shut the school because we can't afford the school. The town has no revenue other than property taxes. So we can say no to everything and not get a new fire truck like the fire chief needs. Not have a new grader like the highway department needs. So there's trade-offs. And I think we thought, at least personally, I thought a data center was, again, a relatively benign use that might bring in revenue to the town. So that's it, off my soapbox.
Thank you, Keith. Ashley.
All right. So, is I'm just trying to bring it back to logistical discussion about if who would propose a bylaw that would say no data centers? Is that us? Or could it be done by the select board, or could it be something taken up by residents of the town and put on the floor at town meeting?
Could be any of the above, Ashley. If the planning board decides to recommend, hey, you know what, just strike the whole thing down. You know, just go ahead and, you know, lay on the table indefinitely.
Well, I don't know about like strike the whole thing down. I mean, like if we strike the whole thing down, we're back in the situation that we were in when this all started, where we were contacted.
Not true,
And
because we've already amended our bylaw to have
moratorium
no's in the use table. And the moratorium has no effect. The moratorium expires. Yeah,
but they're in the use table permanently.
Yeah, yeah, as ends, which is not prohibited.
Okay. Okay, so that's something. Okay, that's good information. So that's one conversation, right? And then going back to this current bylaw, which we're considering, I appreciated Henry's comment about is there some sort of test that could be done related to noise? And, you know, like I'm looking at the ambient temperature, can't go up however many degrees at the property line, whatever. Like, how is that measured? Should I start taking temperature regularly at my property line so that I have a record of it, you know, in case something goes in next door? How is that kind of stuff measured, and is there a way for us to regulate it in a reasonable fashion so people can actually have an understanding of what kind of noise? And can we put that on the developer? I know we have it in there. Is it something we could require? It says we can request it, a noise analysis. I'm just not sure how something like that works. I'm not sure if any of you have the answer.
Michael, you want to talk to Ashley?
Yeah. I mean, I think for noise as well as temperature, they just do computer modeling. Like I just looked at something today where they know the model. I was looking at something about a solar inverter, you know, so they know the model of the inverter and they have the specs, and then they do some modeling, which, you know, it's all hypothetical. You know, they don't know Shutesbury, and they probably they won't know the ups and downs of the hills and the amount of trees and all that stuff. So it's but I think that's how they would do it. So it's technically whiz bang, but probably inaccurate in the practical world. That's my unofficial sense. In terms of the logistics of I guess there's a logistical question, a logistical answer, and then a suggestion. To Nathan's point, anyone could bring it forth. The question I would have is if you had two warrant articles, one that said none and another said some, you have the one that says none, like which you have to have one that wins, right? So it has to be written in a certain way, which is tricky, and I think that takes some thought. My suggestion would be, because I feel like we've traveled this road together since September, and we all didn't start in the same place, and we're not I think it's fair for Jeff to say where, he is. If we started and I had my druthers, I would not want them, but I feel like we've worked together. And I feel like harkening back to, what Nathan said, we made a commitment to town meeting to work on something, to deliver it to town meeting that was substantive. And so for the most part, if we can make some tweaks to this, given the noise and the noticing, which I think are the outstanding issues, I think we have a good, strong bylaw that's protective, but also creates some opportunity within reason. And it could be up to a citizen petition. It could be up to select board. I mean, the other people could bring forth. We don't want any data centers, but I'm trying to separate my personal opinion hat from my board hat, which is, the board sort of been working on this. I think it's really good. We're really close. We just have to sort of look at these tweaks and consider Donna's stuff. And so if we can get this, then I think we can fulfill our commitment to town that we've actually worked on something, given our best collective thought and brought forward, which doesn't mean that, it only takes 10 citizens to do a citizen petition. If that was there, this question is still like, which one wins? I don't know the answer to that. That's like a legal thing, how it's worded. But I think if we do the protections that we identified tonight, plus the ones we did and incorporate Donna's, I think it's good, and we could revisit it in a year or two if we need to. It's not
And
where
I
I
just-
was. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah, no, I don't. I find it unlikely to have two warrant articles pertaining to it. If there was a citizen petition, you could, but certainly not on behalf of the planning board.
Right.
Right. So what would happen is, at this point, the warrant isn't even finalized. We could just totally have it off the warrant and just say, or we could, have some sort of, modification to the warrant article to say, that after deliberating endlessly on data centers, the planning board has decided that it's abominable idea and we don't want to do it. And that would be, like a resolution rather than a bylaw amendment. So, we could do that.
But if it's in the use
or-
table, then I don't think we should do that. Like if they're in there, I think we need a bylaw to regulate them. I'm not saying we're going to do this, but to just scrap this bylaw right now feels negligent to me, considering that it's possible now that they could be built. If
Or
I'm
they're prohibited. No, they're
they're in
prohibited.
the use table as
they're
not prohibited.
okay. And that expires. And then, okay.
No, it does not expire.
No.
That
This
was the whole thing with the moratorium.
Oh, okay. Oh, so that changes it for me. So they're prohibited indefinitely, basically, like forever, if we don't make this bylaw.
Not forever, but they're, as it stands, right? And, yeah.
This was Nathan's point, just to point out, like what Nathan said early on is if we prohibit in the use table, that will stand, but the moratorium ages out on June 20th of this year. And so he was objecting because it didn't make sense.
I misunderstood. I get it now. Thank you.
And that was something, that was an odd turn of events, in the genesis of this, right? But, I think, some people wanted it prohibited, and I kind of protested against the whole thing, and then somebody threw out, well, it could be a more temporary moratorium until we come back and, have a more comprehensive regulation. And so it turned into, now we're doing a comprehensive regulation, and for better or worse. Now,
That was
Tom,
me.
go ahead. Right, yeah. Go ahead, Tom.
Thanks. Yeah, and excuse me if I repeat anything that's already been talked about, but it will also help me just to hear my notes a little bit out loud as I say them, and hopefully it might help the discussion. But it sounds as though some of the key factors were whether we could work notification into special permits. There's a question about noise, and I believe you could theoretically change the existing language to noise, or a noise study shall be included and not just can be. I don't think that would be undoable theoretically. And I'm just offering these theoretically with no, stance per se. As Keith pointed out, all noise regulations talk about property line measurements. That would be how it's done. And from some real life experience I've had with some best special permitting, the applicant usually does, or the consultant that is ultimately agreed upon does actually do site visits at night, during the day, different times of year. So it isn't only a desk model of the noise. It usually has to incorporate both a real live one. What did I write here? Well, I know that I was just concerned. Oh, right. I'm not concerned actually however this ends up, even though we spent a lot of time. I'm really a full believer in, where you end up after your good effort is where you were supposed to be. So I'm comfortable no matter how this goes, with the majority vote in the end, in retrospect or in, looking forward. I think we've done an excellent job in getting to where we are now. And so we're operating out of really informed opinions, however this might go. I'm a little leery about the idea of knowing, even if the two obviously weren't sponsored by the planning board, that there could be two competing articles on the warrant. So I just wanted to offer that as kind of something to think about if it does seem like it might be going in that direction. If it's something coming from the planning board and I'm associated with the planning board, I kind of want it to pass. And I want to make sure that if we do that, we put out something together that we believe would pass. And, timing might be an issue to consider for something like that. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom. I'll just comment that by the time we meet next, where we would finalize it, I believe we might be past the window for citizen petitions. But I mean, just to kind of expand on what we were saying earlier, right? The planning board could withdraw the article or recommend an amendment to the article, or basically recommend an amended version of the article, right, in the last hour. But also, if the planning board decides to move forward with it more or less as is after we make some whatever tweaks we're going to make to it, any voter, whether it's Jeff or me or anyone can, or Sanford Lewis maybe, can go in and just put an amendment on town floor, and as long as it's reasonably within the scope of what the warrant says, then you can do it, right? The moderator can rule that it's in good order, and the meeting can vote whether or not to make the amendment or not, right? So I see Mateo's had his hand up for a minute there. What do we have, Mateo?
I was actually about to say just the same thing. March 25th is the deadline for citizen petitions, so it'll be before the April meeting of the board, and that I think the real concern then would be if there's an amendment from the floor that is within the scope of the article.
And Mateo, can you help us with these citizens petitions if we, in your new possible position as election facilitator, or what that is?
No, I promised my wife I was not going to touch town meeting. I mean, if there's a citizens petition, then that goes to the select board to get put on the warrant, and the moderator doesn't, other than deciding the order in which warrant articles appear, the moderator doesn't have any role in the citizens petitions. They have to appear exactly as they're written, and the select board has to allow them.
No, I was thinking more from like a town clerk and certifying.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I would end up having to certify the signatures.
That's what I meant, Mateo, is you can help us with the certifying our signatures for our town petitions, our citizens petitions.
Yeah, but I think that you're right that the larger concern here is less with the citizens petition to have a competing article and more with it just an amendment from the floor to change the zoning bylaw amendment.
Quite right. Michael?
Yeah, two things. One, a piece of history, and then two, just a comment on discussion. When the original solar bylaw passed in 2016, it started with a citizen petition, which I was part of, and then there was the planning board solar bylaw. And after discussion on the floor, the citizens petition got withdrawn, and the planning board bylaw got passed after it sort of was adjusted. So, that was, I'm hoping this doesn't rise to that occasion. That was not a fun time. But I guess on that note, I really liked what Tom said. I'd like to see this work. I think it's a matter of listening to where people are at, trying to have it, we've tried to make it protective. If we can be responsive, I feel like it's pretty solid. It can be improved based on the comments. But I think it was Tom, you said we know we're coming from very informed positions at this point. We lived with this for, months at this point, and we've had back and forth. So I think we've limited them in size. There's things that we've done that are huge, which is not water extraction. That's huge. We didn't talk about noise, which is something that needs to happen, and the noticing. And the only thing I'd correct you, Tom, on, I think you said noticing for special permits, that's required. It's for the site plan review that's the issue. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Michael. Jeff?
So if we had, if this bylaw was passed by the planning board and we had a citizen's petition also, how would that work, Mateo? Would one negate the other? How would that work in town meeting? Or would the citizen's petition be written in such a way to negate the planning board vote? I have no idea how that would happen.
I would defer to town council about that. I mean, I don't think the sequence in which the articles appear matters, but the citizens petitions appear last, and I would imagine the stricter regulation would take precedence, but that's something that town council would probably determine.
Mm-hmm. So how can we run that by, I don't know, can I say, how would that be run by town council if the citizens were interested in doing that?
So town council can't, town council doesn't evaluate or sound off on citizens petitions because they are articles for the town to consider that don't come from the select board.
Mm-hmm.
And council is the select board's attorney and the attorney for the rest of the town boards. So that's why town council reviews, for example, the planning board's articles. But if you write a citizens petition article, she won't review it. You could get an attorney of your own, a municipal law attorney, to review it. But as far as like which one would take precedent, I don't know. I think that's something that she would have to decide probably at the meeting.
She would have to decide. Who is she?
Donna McNichol, the town council.
Town council, I see.
I mean, I suppose ultimately the decision would be up to the Attorney General's office, the municipal law unit, because they're the ones who approve or disapprove of any bylaw, any zoning bylaws or general bylaws.
I would like to stop this line of conversation because I think it's something that we need to cross if we get there. And, we're already an hour and 43 minutes into this scheduled meeting. So, if anyone is interested in doing a citizens petition, go for it, and the chips will fall where they may. I'll just make one comment that I find it very unlikely that town meeting would pass conflicting articles. And there are, we have the tools that are used, the tools of parliamentary procedure to address these issues at town meetings should they arise. Okay. And we'll have town council there to, and others to guide us through. And I just want to make a couple comments real quick. I guess to start, I don't really remember exactly how it happened that we ended up getting the micro data centers allowable in all the districts. Maybe it's always kind of been that way because it was small. But I would certainly support removing it from Lake Wyola just on account of that. um, kind of the tight, um, land use there. Also, I think, yeah, it's good feedback from the public, the concerns with noise, and we haven't, we addressed it, right? We have, we know there's noise, and we have the references to the noise ordinances. Now, what else we can do to deal with that? We can look at setbacks. We can look at, I don't know how effective noise barriers are or any noise shielding. But I think that would be a great thing to try to incorporate if we move forward with something that, if we keep the small data centers in. And I don't know, as far as, the noticing question is an interesting question. I mean, I suppose I don't see why not. I don't really, my inclination would be to make it all a special permit if we need noticing. But it's, I think our understanding was with, the micro data centers, 150 square feet, it's not really going to be an issue with the noise. I think was our understanding. We're hearing some, conflicting information here, but I would also caution that it's, it's very unreliable, right? We're talking about, people are going to an AI, I believe I heard someone say, and or going to Google and saying, what's the sound of 150 square foot data center. I would I would be very surprised if a 10 by 15 foot shack is going to generate any kind of intolerable noise. I mean, I would be concerned about it if it was being built, but I would it is worth looking at, though. I would consider putting everything under a special permit. So I do think that whatever we move forward with, we want to the noise issue is something that we can work to address more, possibly larger setbacks, especially or possibly provisions that would allow for additional requirements or conditions to alleviate noise if whatever systems in place are found to be more prone to generating a louder noise. So that's I don't know, that's my 2 cents on where we are if we move forward with small data centers, right? And I did promise that we send it back to the public for possible questions and whatnot. So go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, just to say, there's an emerging scientific literature on the effects of low frequency noise. And it's not just an AI or Google search here. I can send you a few links if you like. I'm not sure who to send it to, but it's not just a subjective thing. Low frequencies affect your body. We do not perceive it through our ears. But just there's something that we should take into account is the science on it. It's not just simply a subjective experience.
Well, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Henry, and but where I would just push back was some of these data centers that we've heard about, right? Like really mega projects. I think those are generating a lot of low frequency sound.
Perhaps.
A 150 square foot facility is extremely small, and I don't know, but I am a little bit skeptical of this kind of a small facility. I mean, I feel like it's the reason we did it was with the school does something, or it's just a small kind of building with some computing infrastructure in it, right? And obviously would, possibly need some cooling, but it's not, I don't know, it's not a several thousand square foot facility. I think that's just the level of scale, I think, is really worth noting. Keith?
Yeah, again, I think, Tom, did you mention perhaps requiring a noise study? Yeah, I think maybe that's what because again, information from AI, which kind of cracked me up. I'm wondering how much noise was generating that answer at some data center somewhere, probably in Fairfax, Virginia. So you're not knowing what kind of a cooling equipment they're going to use. So to require a noise study, it may be a non-issue. They may say, you know what, our cooling equipment makes no noise. All right, no problem. So yeah, maybe we just make it a requirement that they do a noise study, and then we can review the scientific literature regarding health effects on different frequencies if that's applicable. As some of you know, I'm very much details matter, and just citing random numbers or studies, unless you get to delve into the actual literature and read the literature word for word, even scientific literature can be misleading or misused. So yeah, I think maybe to solve or to better cover ourselves regarding the noise issue, make it a requirement that a noise study be done for any of these projects.
I'll make
All right, let's make it, I'm going to call it the last one, Ashley.
Okay.
For everyone.
Just as far as when we started this process, we were talking about a wide variety of things, among them like potentially banning them and sizes and all of that. And I'm a high school teacher, and I brought up how, okay, there's data centers in most public schools by the standards that we're talking about. I mean, like there's 150 square feet is not too much bigger than a closet. And I've seen the place where all the servers are in Belchertown High School where I work. And so if you ban them at 150 feet, and that could potentially create a problem if the elementary school needs to expand their capacity. So it's just something to consider. I don't know. I think primary use versus secondary use is probably something that would take care of that, but that's just a comment I wanted to throw in there. They're already in schools. And so like when we think of data centers, we get very freaked out because they're massive and we do not want those in our town. But we have to be careful too that we don't put our school or other, I don't know what else there would be in town that would need that kind of capacity, but we just have to be careful of that. That's all. Oh, and one more thing. It's nascent technology. Like we are learning. It's a really tricky thing to regulate. Just because all of this is happening so fast, and we've really tried our best, but it's been really great to hear people's comments. It's been really eye-opening for me.
I would like to thank all the members of the public for coming and participating in our hearing tonight. It's very important, and we appreciate it very much. So I think we'll talk about closing this hearing here pretty soon. And now it's gotten a little late. Michael, go ahead.
Just a process suggestion. So there's someone I worked with he calls it a negative poll, where, rather than having to agree to everything, you basically say, does anyone have a strong objection with X? And so like we've all had the opportunity to read Donna's comments, which are the only changes that were written down, so we haven't written down the noise suggestions or the noticing suggestions, but at least for the ones Donna suggested, it might be helpful just to say, does anyone have an issue with Donna's suggestions? And then we could if there are, we can address the ones that there are, but if not, we can just sort of accept them as a whole. So just a facilitation suggestion, Nathan.
Yeah, all right, we can do that. So yeah, let's move on to Donna's comments. Did everyone get a chance? Does anyone have any objections to anything specific in there?
Early on, when with the definition of data center, building with computers, blah, 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 what is the reason for adding the extra security system? What else? It was two things she added on there.
Cooling systems and security systems. She said that they're part and parcel of every data center. So to include them in the definition, because we talk about,
Is she knows for sure there's a security system for every data center? I mean,
I think
it seems to me we don't put roof on there either, or toilets. I mean, it's a building for computers, and that's the primary purpose. Adding in every little ancillary thing. And again, it's all about just conciseness. And do we really need to go down the path of?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, those are not differentiating factors. I mean, marijuana facilities have security as well, so.
Yeah, I mean, some houses have security, but that doesn't define a house.
Right. I wouldn't die my sword on those, I guess. Either.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't either. I'm all about short and sweet and avoiding excess language if not necessary.
Could we compromise because we go on about cooling later in the regulation? And maybe if we at least mention the cooling systems, it might be a good connection to other parts. But I also can live or die, or live or take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I would second what Tom said to leave in the cooling system, because obviously that's something that's significant with these things.
Do we have anything in the regulation pertaining to security systems?
No.
Get on it. Just kidding. Yeah, no, that's I mean, it could be extra. I think Donna was just trying to, obviously the cooling is one of the main things we're trying to regulate, and security system we don't really have in there, but that could be something we might consider addressing. But does anyone else have any
You're okay with taking that out then? Security and leaving the cooling? Okay.
Yeah, I'm all right with it.
That's a nice compromise.
Okay.
Again, not that I cared that much about it.
I think you just need an and or an and or.
Oh yeah. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't love the addition of data centers over 5,000 square feet and floor area are prohibited. And
She was really clear about putting that in though for two reasons. One, because that it should get stated to make it clear, but I think more importantly that the whole idea, if you put it in here, since it's in the same section as the waiver, it connects the two. I think that was
so to give the context of that, she wanted to put it back into the definition, right? Which we had, talked about, and she agreed with the point about, it's less clear if the size limitation is included in the definition, whether a waiver could be granted.
right.
Right. So she agreed with that, but I was confused about the emphasis on size because it seemed like, like another part of her concern with it was, if I, propose a data center that's, greater than 5,000 square feet, no, it's not a small data center. It's a big data center, and I want to do it under light industry, right? So it goes back to the same problem we have with light industry. You know what I mean? So I felt like it doesn't really address that. And we say a small data center is no greater than 5,000 square feet.
I mean, I would follow her lead because she's town council and she says we should put it in. I think the light industry thing, that's the whole purpose of the definition. You know, if someone comes in with a big facility and it meets all the parameters of a data center, you can't call a data center light industry if it is defined as a data center. You know what I mean? Like if it
Yeah,
didn't
I
have
mean,
all
you
these
know,
parameters, we would just say, you know, looking at what you propose, that's a data center based on our definition. So, you know, you're not eligible to build. I don't think they have the option of coming in with a data center that's larger just by calling it light industry.
well, I mean, I would agree with you, but I just, you know, I don't understand, you know, but I mean, you know, there's, you know, I guess it doesn't really matter. Um, I mean, you know, I was, you know, you could leave it in there or replace it with just like a statement like, you know, data centers are not to be, you know, regulated or, you know, permitted under any other provision of the bylaw except, you know, 8.13.
Well, I
So I
think
think,
her point was just being clear. That the more clear we are, the better we are in terms
yeah.
of.
I would rather keep it in there. I think we really want to keep them to that size and it's being emphasized. And she deals with this stuff all the time and must think that that makes it stronger. I'm not a lawyer, but I think if she wants it in there and we're all committed to keeping these things 5,000 square feet or smaller, it can't hurt.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's, yeah. Okay.
Can we go back up to the use table? So, all right, so small data centers, so town. All right, so do we really want to not allow them in town center? Because what that kind of effectively does is I mean, again, I don't think any of these are coming to town, but these kind of, you know, we're also concerned about rural residential and forest conservation. So when we say it can't go in the already developed part of town, it's pushing potential developers into the, again, rural residential or forest conservation. So might we consider kind of trying to focus development towards the already developed part of our town? Or at least not making it not possible.
I think just for background, I mean, her point was not about where we should put it or not. Her read of our specs in terms of what we were requiring, but she didn't think it fit there. And based on that, she said, well, if it's not actually going to fit there, you shouldn't allow it there. If we think that it could fit there, then I think we could make an argument. And, you know, while we're here, I think we can consider, I think it was either you or Nathan who just talked about maybe prohibiting all of them like Wyola, so we could sort of expand the conversation, maybe flip one in and flip one out.
I mean, it still has to be a 2-acre lot, correct?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that limits how many parcels in town center or Lake Wyola. I mean, but I think Mayor said that there was at least one parcel at Lake Wyola that was 14 acres. So,
Yeah, I would be good with it. I mean, you know, I think it's obviously unlikely to go in the town center, but there's potential for mixed use, you know, waivers if someone, you know, wants to build an office building and, you know, there's like, you know, there's someone wants to, you know, rent out part of the space to, you know, put some servers up or something. I mean, I think, that, you know, that could probably be, a micro data center, but if it's, you know, larger than 150 square feet, you know, it might be 1,000 square feet, right? Or 500 square feet, something like
I
that.
mean, the library is 5,000 square feet and it's town center. I'm not sure how big the highway department or fire department buildings are. But I mean, because we already have, again, non-residential development in town center. Hell, the school for that matter.
No, yeah, I mean, I think you make a valid point. You know, it's not. I mean, I think it would fit more in town center if eventually, like, we had a town center get developed with like a, you know, some development, some commercial development there, and it would, you know, potentially be in mixed use with that. But I don't see like a standalone, you know, data center like, you know, maxed out at 5,000 square feet, you know, the full, you know, on a 90,000 square foot lot. I think that scenario is much more unlikely. But other than that, yeah, it's.
I mean, I find it unlikely too, but do we want to prohibit it?
Right, exactly. No, you know, it's. Yeah, I'm somewhat indifferent, and I could go either way. You know, it may also make sense to, you know, reduce the size a little bit for town center from like 5,000 to 3,000 or something. But, yeah.
As a suggestion then, if we prohibited all data centers in Lake Wyola, and based on what Nathan, you just said, we reduce the size allowable in town center to say 3,000, so they're smaller. It's a smaller building on the same size lot. How's that feel to people?
That's kind of, yeah, that gets to what I mean, if we require 2 acres for any of these, right? So it's not like one's going to drop into the middle of the beachfront lakefront Lake Wyola neighborhoods because there's no 2-acre lots. And I don't think there's any 2-acre lots in there.
I think a lot of it has to do with how tightly packed for Shutesbury standards the lots are. Certainly at Lake Wyola and town center as well to a certain extent. So it's more about, you know, not allowing for noise issues, construction to bother people who are very close abutters. Certainly at Lake
Right.
Wyola, I don't know as much about the town center.
Right, but we require a 2-acre lot, which is the same lot size for rural residential.
Right.
So presumably there wouldn't be any more disturbance to abutters than there would be in the other 2 categories.
I think the lots are a lot bigger in other parts of town more consistently than they are at Lake Wyola.
There's more non-conforming lots in Lake Wyola.
Yeah, again, my only thought was that when we, you know, we're again, unlikely as these things are in town, we would be discouraging development in the developed part of town and not encouraging, but at least making possible the development in the forest conservation or rural residential. So,
yeah, it's a good point.
Definitely a valid point, Keith.
Yeah, I would be fine with allowing small in town center and prohibiting everything in Lake Wyola. That feels okay to me for now.
Yeah, let's do that. Keep it simple, you know.
Is that okay with everybody?
yeah,
You know, no matter where they put it, if they, you know, whether if they go up to 5,000 feet anywhere, it's obviously going to be, you know, closely scrutinized. And
Yeah, I
we have
think-
the power to impose conditions and limit it and request them to amend their plans.
I have no idea if we want to do the requiring notice for the site plan review where we put it, but does anyone have an issue with if we're allowed to do it? doing that, because I think that's the big difference between these two. You know, special permit has got the whole rigmarole. And site plan review by design is intended to be a little bit more slim in terms of expediting. I mean, alternatively, we could, I think, Nathan, you actually said we could just, you were okay with doing special permits for everything. It just seems like if the MLP wanted to do a small addition to the broadband hut, having to do a special permit might be, seems like a lot.
I don't think that we would require a special permit for I don't know if that meets our definition of a data center.
I don't know. I mean, I guess that they built another one next to it and they attached them or something. Depends how they do it.
Is it a standalone use?
Yeah. The hut is, it's the white thing in the parking lot behind town hall.
Right. Is that a standalone use?
Yeah. That's our broadband in town.
I don't know. I would say it's you might be able to say it's accessory to the municipal use, right?
Well, it would be a municipal use. I don't know if, I can't remember if a municipal use gets a exemption or not.
It
I don't
does,
think,
unless it's other listed elsewhere in the table.
right.
But it's
In fact, actually, I think we discussed that way early on.
but I don't even think it's a data center. It's not servers or computing equipment. It's fiber optic routing.
I think there's cards and stuff in there. I mean, Gail
There's cars
basically,
and stuff in there, but it's not a data center. It's I don't know. I mean, that's kind of something we've talked about, but we've like never really gotten into what
The communication facility. We need a new bylaw.
Well, we have yeah.
that's next year.
No. We don't really I don't think there's any impact from the hut on anybody except we all get internet.
So can I jump in, Nathan, and say,
Yeah.
in addition to the use table and what we just discussed earlier about in the definition, does anyone have any other objections to Donna's suggestions?
I didn't like the
5,000 I left out, but aside from those, the ones you've discussed, any ones we haven't discussed that people have issues with?
yeah, no, I didn't like the down at where it's the prohibition on PFAS unless waived by the planning board or whatever. That I don't like doing that.
She was responding to the two dynamics that we articulated. One was that there was a concern that the planning board doesn't override what the fire department wants to have, but therefore allowing us to waive it, but also recognizing that the planning board can prohibit if we wanted to.
I don't understand that though. So we can determine what the fire department uses? How does the planning board have a nexus to the fire department?
They might have professional ability to do things, but we can determine certain stuff. I mean, she said that we can. It was 100%. I'm not the town lawyer, but
I mean, I could see it. I think if it's an installed system that is installed at the facility, it seems to me that would be in our purview. But
Yeah,
to
the
determine what
issue
the fire chief carries on his truck seems like way out of our lane.
Yeah, but the issue I have with it is just saying unless waived by the planning board, because like any requirement in this entire section is waivable by the planning board, and to say call out one, it has to be this way unless waived. I think kind of creates a contradictory signaling.
So you would get
So
rid
we
of
have
it.
our waiver provision. We have our waiver provision. Town council has said that we can do this. We can just leave it in if we want to, and we don't have to, put this, unless waived by the planning board. I mean, that's, I think it's unnecessary and it says, well, maybe, you look at any other requirement and you say, well, that doesn't say unless waived by the planning board. Maybe I can't waive it. Like, what does that mean? Right? I mean, it's just, so it's just, we don't need to say unless waived by the planning board. We can leave it in if we want to. It's Keith, your point is well taken. I wasn't there for that part of the conversation with Donna.
I mean,
But,
when would Lenny seek this waiver?
Lenny wouldn't. It's on the applicant to seek the waiver. So it's, I don't know. I'm not worried about it. If any emergency responders violate this part of the zoning bylaw, I'm not sure what's going to happen, but it's
It would be after the fact.
it would be after
I
the
don't think
fact.
I don't think they're even held to this for emergency operations.
That's exactly right.
They're
I suspect you're
indemnified
right.
from such worries. Like they don't have to consult with the law to deal with an emergency.
Kind of a good Samaritan
Yes.
clause.
So why don't we take out Donna's suggestion and sort of know that in an emergency setting, they're going to do what they're going to do, but it's in there as a signaling an intent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's
Okay.
fine.
Yeah, and take us out of it as far as being an authorizing.
Okay.
That's all I
Yeah.
had, I think.
Cool. Any other?
Could you just change it to and or in the definition section where we took
Uh,
one phrase?
way at the top.
Yeah.
Almost there, I think. No, I'm not.
In front of cooling systems, it was.
And or cooling systems. Okay. Okay. So I think we're at, tell me if you guys think you agree or not. We've addressed the whole slew of Donna's additions. So those are taken care of. The things that we haven't taken care of is noise. Keith made a suggestion about requiring a noise assessment as opposed to we might do it, actually requiring it. There's maybe some other noise stuff we want to do. I made one suggestion about the negative impacts, and then the noticing for anything that's a site plan review. Is there any other additions that came up from the public that we'd want to incorporate?
Not from the public, Michael, but did we add in, because my head is spinning at this point, we said town center, but we're going to make them smaller? Did we?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes. I'm not sure how to do that, but I'll
We
note it.
we talked about, I don't know. I think we could just leave it as is for town center. I don't know. I mean, I did suggest possibly making it smaller.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that sounded like we were going to do that. I guess maybe we should discuss. Maybe not tonight.
We could discuss, I just,
I would support it.
Could we just leave it as is and then, again, if a permit comes in, when we're reviewing a special permit, I mean, how big is the parcel the library's on? Isn't that like
it's like 10 acres, right?
Yeah.
20 acres.
can't we review it, scale to the lot size or something and
Well, of course we can, but if we say it can be 5,000 square feet, then they have a pretty strong case to make it so. And it's not a data center. A lot of, the data center is going to have noise. It's going to be going 24/7. It's different.
because we allow them up to 5,000 square feet. Could we, at our discretion, limit it to 3,000 square feet?
I don't think so.
Well,
Okay.
of course we could. Or, we can say, look, we want you to, revise these plans. We think 5,000 square feet is too big in this location, so make it 3,000. And if they decline to do it, we can decline to approve that permit application.
But we'd have to have reasons for it.
Yeah, they declined to take our suggestion and make it smaller.
Well,
I think we're opening ourselves up to getting sued because they were following our rules.
You know, a special permit's discretionary approval. I mean, it's, you know, any permit applications that are discretion, except for solar, of course, but.
I mean, if we want it to be smaller, we should say it, in my opinion. I think it's what's happening is we're not clear if
Yeah.
all of us where we stand on it.
I guess I'm just kind of back where I started. The you know, we came up with the 5,000 square feet because that was the size of our new library, which is in town center. And I think initially, you know, our concern with these things were the big giant projects that were popping up in towns, and we thought, well, we'll limit it in size, and we thought 5,000 square feet was a reasonable size for our town, even in town center, which is where the library is, and the school, elementary school, which is, I don't know, 30,000 square feet, something like that. So I don't know that, do we need to create another category of medium size? Or what is it? We got micro, sort of small and small.
No, it would just be in the small data center, you say, you know, except in town center where it shall not exceed, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 square feet, whatever it is. But I mean, I was thinking that actually, and then, you know, when we kind of came back to it and Michael was like, oh, let's take it out of Lake Wyola and leave it in, or put it in town center, without the qualifier of size reduction, I just let it ride because of what Keith just said. You know, we can, you know, if it's like on a parcel the size of the, you know, if it's on a big parcel that's not, you know, right there in the midst of everything, then it could be 5,000 square feet, right? If it
I mean, it still has to meet all the other requirements, still has to meet the noise requirements, still has to meet the water, all those other things. So it's not like we're just saying, build a big noisy thing in the middle of town. It still has to comply.
Our council, however, thought we shouldn't allow it at all. And
Yeah, but
she's been involved, like she lives here. She's been working with multiple boards. She works in other places. She must have a reason. I guess it would be great to maybe talk with her about it.
it would. Again, I would remind, you know, she's our council. She's
Yeah.
not the board. So
Yep, that's true.
And she mostly, I mean, actually what she said was the way we defined it, she didn't think they could go in town center. So it wasn't that she thought it was a bad
Okay.
fit.
I see.
I think, you know, I sort of landed on this thing here. I raised it before, but Donna had added this clause at the end, such that it creates negative impacts for the butter or the natural environment. I mean, if we added that to the noise section, so that it was a little bit more protective beyond just DEP and the shoot spray excessive noise. And then also require a noise assessment on the front end. That might help with some of the, you know, some of the protective natures of noise. It's totally subjective, but it gives us some running room to have the conversation with the applicant.
yeah, I think so. And again, it gives them a target for their designing their project. Again, not that anyone's coming here, but would they know when they design a project, they buy equipment that is going to pass muster if they want the project permitted.
So it would get added here somehow. I'll make the language work, but and then we would, in the required documents, I think it says we may require a noise. We would just say that's mandatory.
Yeah.
We're getting there. Noise assessment.
Yeah, I shall submit a noise assessment. Da, da, da.
Oh, we don't even, it's not even.
Oh, huh.
If we want it, they have to do it already.
Yeah. Well, where the hell did I see it? That was We have conflicting.
There's a lot of versions of this out there.
Well, no, this is the only version. I think it might be within the document itself.
Yeah, it says noise applicant shall submit a noise assessment. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
page five, section C.
yeah.
Oh, here requires, okay. So it's
Oh,
in
yeah,
this,
yeah.
Yeah, under number 2, it says the planning board may require a noise assessment. So do we want to change that to shall?
yeah. Okay,
Sorry to bring it up, but when you just copied and pasted something,
yeah,
the word abutter, it was highlighted. I think it's supposed to be abutters. And
in
now
both instances?
both instances, yeah. I don't know if you want to do Control F or if you remember the sections.
I'm getting closer to it.
Mhm.
Control F means that I remembered what the words were.
I would search for abutter. I mean, if you
Okay.
there it is. That's
There
one.
it is. So it's a butter, as you're saying.
Yeah, such a
And
negative impacts for abutters. And that was
the next one is
you
noise.
put it at the next one. There it is. Thanks.
Okay. So I think it feels like we addressed noise to our collective satisfaction at this point.
But look at that,
I know
excessive noise bylaw period.
I know
Such-
I know that I'm gonna clean it up. I don't have the wherewithal to unless you want to do it right now, you guys can.
you know, I mean, just, I suppose,
I mean, let's see.
no, yeah, you know, we need to
Yeah.
find a way to adjourn here pretty soon, I think.
Well, the only thing I was gonna say was, I think the only outlying thing, one, actually, Tom mentioned it, that we were measuring noise at the property line. I think it's built into DEP.
That's
but-
in this that we see there. That they mentioned that the 310 CMR 710.
Yeah, it's in here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Do we just leave it that way because it's already embedded in there?
yeah.
Anybody who would be qualified to do a noise study would know that.
Okay, and then the only other thing is, do we want to require noticing for site plan review? I think that's the only other thing that was outstanding, and I'm totally good with that. That seems highly reasonable. I mean, the reason people object to having to notify abutters is that it costs money because you have to get the abutter list and then you have to do the mailing. But, you know, it's a few $100 and it seems like letting people know in advance, that's a reasonable cost for a developer.
Yeah, I just, you know, if I don't know, site plan review is like, you know, you do the work, you get your site, you know, it goes to the board, it's not a public hearing. You know, so it's like, I don't know, I feel like it's possibly a misstep. I mean, I think if it was that level of a use that was, you know, that much of a concern, then maybe it should be a special permit. I'm not convinced that's the case with our micro data center, you know, 150 square feet. Maybe we could, I don't know if anyone would volunteer to look into that more in the interim.
I'm happy to email Donna. It's a simple question to see, like,
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that
I'll
would
do
be
that.
that's another question, the legal aspect of it, you know, that would be good. I would like to hear what Donna has to say about it, but then I would also like to know more about it and not just do it. I mean, I hear the concerns of the public. I mean, we took it out of Lake Wyola for one, which I think addresses it better than sending notices would. You know, it's allowed in 3 districts. 150 square feet or less. That's I don't know if it needs an abutter notice, you know. I don't know if it does. You know, 5,000 square feet, absolutely. You know, 2,000 square feet, right? Sure. But you're talking about like a shed with some servers in it. That seems I'm not. I would like more information before I make a decision. That's me. I mean, you know, if people want to, if anyone feels strongly about it, we've got, you know, Tom, we got.
I just think you kind of said it in so many words, but I don't know if it would be legal to require notice to abutters looked at one way unless you invite those abutters to a public hearing, which would have to make a special permit. But like to notify them but not to give them a voice at the table is kind of
Problematic.
thank you.
Yeah.
So I think one of the only ways would be to convert it to special permit if you really want notification. But again, I think the council can tell us better.
Jeff?
Point of information, I guess this is for Nathan and Michael or anyone else. If the planning board votes for this bylaw and it goes to town meeting and it's defeated by 2/3 vote, then the null position, meaning no bylaw, means no data. Is that correct? Am I stating?
That's correct.
You broke up, Jeff.
I'm sorry. Let me say again.
No, we heard it.
Okay.
Did you hear the answer?
No, I did not hear the answer.
Oh, I said that's correct, Jeff. If this gets if this fails, it doesn't need to be rejected by 2/3 majority. If it fails to achieve 2/3 majority in the affirmative, then we're left where we are now, which is a ends across the board, which I don't like, but
Mhm.
just I
Okay.
think having the definition there. But anyway,
I think I'm
Ashley's next. I'm just raising my hand.
okay. I think, you know, I know that I cannot be there in that it's my wife's 70th. It's important that the people of the town know that indeed, if this is defeated by a 2/3 majority, then we go to I guess a null position, which in our case is no data center. That's correct as far as understanding.
if it fails to have a 2/3 majority vote in the affirmative, then that's where we are. Yes.
Okay, so I think the town people need to know that, and I will not be there to say it, but I think that's an important message for the town to know before the vote occurs. That's all I
Jeff,
need.
I'll tell you what, anything you want in the planning board report as a potential dissenter, I will wholeheartedly support. To be printed with our report for everyone to look at.
I don't understand that. Meaning that I could write something and could be read?
Well, yeah, that's, you know, if we get the rest of the board to vote for it, I would certainly advocate wholeheartedly for it to be included in that, yes.
Okay, that would be my preference, to have a statement like that so the town knows that indeed if they vote 2/3, then the null position is no data center. I would like to.
You do have to come to the April meeting.
Oh yeah, I'll be at the April meeting, but I just can't come to my I have to go to my wife's 70th birthday gathering. I'm sorry.
Can't say I blame you.
Thank you.
All right, Michael, what do you need anything else to you know, kind of get where we need to be to vote on this? And no?
No, I think the only outstanding thing is you know, what do we do about notices? And I think we can address that in April. If I, you know, talk to Donna. I don't want to jump in front of Ashley. I did have one
Thank
point
you.
about that.
Just getting back to the notification thing, if we notified people, wouldn't the public, the ability for them to comment happen at our meetings when we have public comment? Like if we said, we're notifying you that this is a potential thing, the next planning board meeting is April 6th, you can show up and talk about it during public comment? Or not wouldn't it? Is that possible to deal with the potential legal issue that Tom brought up? Maybe a good question for Donna.
It's you're talking about reaching selectively out to the public. And so that selective process in the beginning kind of has to trigger more for them. So it's not really appropriate for the town selectively to reach out to some people to say, you might be especially interested in making public comment at a site plan review, where technically it's just up to the planning board to decide between them and the applicant. It's not congruent with the usual way of selectively contacting the public about an event. It's like, that's because you have a special status,
Right.
you're holder or something, and therefore you get to come to what we call a hearing.
Yeah, a particular hearing for it. I was just wondering if not showing up for a site plan review, but saying you can show up to a planning board meeting and make public comment.
Yeah,
At the chair's discretion.
Yeah, with the forums that already exist, I think it would just be easiest to place it into a hearing category. It's almost like trying to create a new kind of category of communicating.
I think it's ill-conceived to do it. I mean, we're gonna look at it, but we'll see, what Donna says. Michael?
Yeah, just because you guys won't have the opportunity to hear about the clean energy regs tonight, I'll just sort of throw out the idea that in the clean energy regs, they've created this whole pre-filing phase. So before an applicant submits, they have to engage the municipalities and the public. So another way to do it is for them to have a public forum just to sort of say, this is what we're doing, where we're doing it, which is separate from the planning board, but it's a way of making it public to everybody. And then anyone who decides they want to come to the planning board meeting can. So that's another option. Anyway, we'll figure that one out between now and April.
All right. Let's have a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
I'll
Do I hear a
second.
Okay, Daycare moves, Pycroft seconds to close the public hearing on our data center bylaw amendment proposal.
Oh,
Any
wait a
discussion?
sec. Oh, discussion, right?
Yeah,
I'm wondering if we should not close it because we're going to bring back new information from Donna and whatever about the noticing. And that might be considered part of the hearing because it's new information. The whole idea is, unless it's just us, I guess it's okay.
this is legal advice, which is that's allowed after the hearing of a special permit. And
Okay, cool.
and this is different than a special permit too. It's an opportunity for the public to be heard. So it's we're good. I mean, we could continue it. I don't think that's needed. We've had the hearing, we've
We're
heard
good.
from the public, and we can incorporate it. We can, I think everyone said anything that they want to say about, their feelings about it. Everyone's aired it out. So, I think based on things that are available in the public record already, we can decide our final draft of this thing in April. Anyone else? I'll call the roll. Daycare,
Aye.
Hasty,
Aye.
Pycroft,
Aye.
Weston.
Aye.
Seifert,
Aye.
and vote in the affirmative as well. Now, this motion carries unanimously. The public hearing has been closed. And now, all right, we're gonna, I think, skip minutes from January as much as I would like to get that done. No, I think
Clean energy we can pass on if you want.
yeah. I mean, I don't really want to talk about it. I don't know if. So we're gonna have to start doing this, accepting consolidated permit applications in October. But you know, the main question I want to at least talk about briefly, Michael, is that the same timeline for a model bylaw?
So I'll try to make this short. So so it's for projects that are solar and wind that are less than 25 meg and battery that's less than 100 meg. And we municipalities are going to be regulating, DOER's doing the regulations. So the regulations were finalized. They went into effect on March 1st. So the regulations there, the way they constructed them is that there's the regulations and then there's some substantive guidelines. The guidelines are still in draft. Comment period ends on this Friday. And then what's going to happen is the guidelines get incorporated into the regulations. So those will all go into effect on July 1st. So everything that's in there. So tell me your question again, Nathan. I just spaced on it. Oh, the model bylaws, right. So the model bylaws are also the equivalent of guidelines. And there's a newly created division. It's the Division of Siting and Permitting in DOER. They're the ones who've been leading this whole process. For whatever reason, I think because it was just a heavy lift, the Green Communities Division of DOER is doing the model bylaws. It's a very scattered approach. The model bylaws, there was a draft that came out like 6 months ago. There's going to be a final draft that's going to get released, I don't know, in the next month to 2 months. So we haven't seen the revised draft of model bylaws. And the thing I think I would just share is the current message from DOER is that municipalities don't have to change their bylaws to comply with the new regulations. However, these model bylaws are going to come out and suggest stuff. And so municipalities could change their bylaws if they wanted to. But DOER has been very clear in the last few weeks, you don't have to do it. I think there's some confusion there in my mind, because
the existing bylaws we have may contradict the regulations they're putting out?
Well, yes. And so it all comes out to the Dover Amendment, so and it's about exposure. So, and the other thing that's inconsistent, there's so many questions, but DOER expressed a couple of weeks ago, municipal bylaws can be more stringent than the model bylaws will be. But it's not written anywhere in either the regulations or the guidelines. So that opens up exposure as well. Like if we, the idea was if we had a 500-foot setback and like their setbacks are only 25 feet. I know that from the original draft. So we're going to have a bigger setback. Could a developer say the state's recommending 25, you've got, whatever we have, 100 feet or 250 or whatever, that's unreasonable, we're going to sue you. And then just the extra layer of confusion is that in the law, in the clean energy law, what the legislature conceded after people like me complaining was they basically said, if municipalities follow the rules developed by DOER so they comply with the regulations, they're essentially going to be deemed compliant with the Dover Amendment. So if you play by DOER rules, you can't get sued for the Dover Amendment. But it seems like, which is a great concept, but they're creating all these little openings where it seems like there's inconsistencies and there's nothing in writing. So that's like the next dynamic. For us, like I've always assumed we would have to change our bylaws. Now I'm sort of in a holding pattern. I want to see the model bylaws and I want to get some clarity about some of this stuff.
Holding pattern is good enough for me, Michael. I think we got to leave it at that.
Yeah. So more to come.
Yeah, no, I mean, that was more I just kind of like, obviously we're late for a town meeting on this, but it seems like we might be all right.
I pointed out to them like 6 months ago that any municipality that changes their bylaws, if they're waiting for the model, is going to have to do a special town meeting, which is 351 communities. I mean, so
yeah,
we're with everybody else, so they just decided to do it this way.
No, I know. No. All right, so we got the Wheelock annual report. I don't think we've received it. Ashley, you haven't received it by any chance, have you?
No, I haven't. I checked on our planning board website today just to see what's there, and it seems like the 2025 one is there. And I was wondering who received it and who put it there.
Could have been the select board received it and then the web committee put it there or something like that, but
Yeah, I mean,
think
there's
it's
one for 2025, 2024. They're short, you know, they're like 2 pages long.
Did you
We're not
open it
gonna
and it
get
said
into-
2025?
Yes, I mean, I can't remember now if it actually does, but there's a link for it. I can check.
yeah, so hey, let's just do this. I just want to say if you haven't already, would you reach out and say, hey, we need our annual report?
Yes, or did you send it to us? I think you did. Yeah, I'll check it out. I'll take care of it. Yes, I will reach out to the person.
Thank you. And then
I don't know if it's the same person. I was looking at the last one that I received from them in my email before this meeting, and I think it was 2023. So I was surprised when I checked the website and I saw that there was one for 2024 and 2025. So I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I'll compare names and I will reach out.
Why don't we suss out these details a little bit offline?
Yeah,
you and I,
of
and
course.
we can check in with select board if we need to, or town administrator. Yeah, so that's just a little
Hey,
note there.
I just
Okay.
looked at it. Yeah, it's on the website.
It's there. Like
Yeah.
somebody, I was curious because it wasn't through me, but I can reach out to them and just make a point of connection either way and just, or I could reach out to the town admin. I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Well, I would just say, now that we know it's there, maybe we can put it on next month's agenda so we can read it and discuss it and see if we want to follow up about anything.
Okay.
2020.
So that's
wait,
our
this is
homework to everybody read it
Yeah,
ahead of the next
It's
meeting.
not a lot of reading.
Oh yeah, because it's 2025, right? That's the
It's only
one
a
we're
couple
talking about that we
pages.
didn't think we
And
had.
most of it's boilerplate from all the other ones, so.
I'm sure.
Okay, yeah. All right. So never mind. Yeah, we could just talk about it next meeting. We don't have to do.
I'll do some reconnaissance and report back.
I think there was some talk about one of those documents having been like a site plan review report or whatever. I think that got sorted out though. All right, that's about it. I don't know if we anyone has any updates they urgently need to talk about. I'll just.
I have a quick thing. I'm sorry, it's really quick. I know that there are planning board or there's planning training that happens at the state level. I remember Jeff Lacey telling me about it. I've seen it come through our emails. It may already have passed. I'm just wondering if the board could fund that at all, because I'd love to go, but I can't pay for it.
we've paid, I think we've paid for it in the past. I can't remember when, but I'm pretty sure Deacon had approved that. I think I saw an email in the last couple of days, like this is the last week to sign up. 'Cause it hasn't happened yet. It's in 2 Saturdays, I think.
The 21st.
Yeah.
Who's going?
I'm on
Because
the
I
phone.
would consider going too, but I didn't want to get off my wallet.
Yeah, I paid for it myself a year or two ago, and I wondered if I wanted to again.
Low or wide, Nathan? Let us all go.
Ashley
Yeah.
said meeting was April 6th. I think the next meeting is April 13th. Am I correct on that? The second Monday?
Well, hold on that, Jeff, because we're just to figure out this,
Okay.
the citizen planner meeting.
That was just me being hypothetical, Jeff.
Okay, so it's April 13th as far
I
as,
have no idea when our next meeting is by date.
thank you.
Do we have money from our fees and all?
I don't know. I've never been very close with the budget, but our budget's always very small. You know, like $1,000 or whatever for a year. So we can.
We're almost at the end of the year. We don't have any more notices to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know,
Oh, Mateo knows.
yeah.
The planning board expense line is currently $702.64 out of a starting budget of $1,000.
We could all go if we wanted to. It's
What's the
$105.
$105? And who wants to go? Ashley, Keith?
I have to look at it
Okay.
again and look at the date. I don't know.
Mateo?
What,
Oh,
All
sorry.
right, well, I think we can say that, you know, I mean, is it, the board would have, vote to approve, a spend like that, I assume? Or is it just, the chair doesn't have authority to spend money and, say that you can go, right?
I'll just make a motion if that helps.
But I think it would, I mean, I suppose we could do that, sure.
Okay, I'll move that the planning board cover the registration expenses for the citizen planner workshop for 2026 for board members who want to attend.
Second.
Any discussion?
Could I ask Mateo quickly? Mateo, do you know the cost for the hearing tonight? Has that already been taken out of there?
That I believe it has, because that budget is, let me see, that was posted through, well, yeah, through March 10th, 2026. So as of March 10th, that was the so as of tomorrow.
I didn't know if the newspaper billed us yet, but okay,
I believe they have, because we had to send it a while ago.
I see.
All right, anything else? All right, call the roll. DeCara,
Aye.
Hasty,
Aye.
Bycroft,
I
Seifert,
I
Weston,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Motion carries unanimously. Very good.
And before I just am looking at this email from them. It says, what does it say? Hold on. It's annoying. It's the last week to apply, but I'm having a hard time finding the date. Oh, here we go. Okay. It's the last week to apply for CPTC. Registration closes March 13th at 5 p.m.
Okay.
So I can forward that if it's helpful.
So if I were to register, could I just get reimbursed from the town? Or do we have to wait for like a purchase order or something?
I don't know what the process is. I've seen it done before. I know, I remember seeing,
The easiest thing is to do a reimbursement. Pay for it yourself. Give me the receipt or the invoice or whatever it is, and then I can submit the reimbursement request.
oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
sorry, yeah. Yeah, you gotta front the money. I
Okay.
misunderstood the question.
Great.
Yeah, seems like we're good. You know, worst case scenario, we're going to next fiscal year and get it out of that budget, but so I don't leave anyone hanging. It's good. It's a good spend, not too heavy.
It's a good conference.
And I'm gonna say my update is, an email we received 8 hours ago from the Select Board Community Action Event for our Rural Schools 2 p.m. Tuesday, March 10th. Come stand together for a community action event. Join us tomorrow, Tuesday, March 10th at 2 p.m. Shutesbury Elementary School. Teachers, students, staff, and lots of community members will join hand in hand to encircle our elementary school. Our goal, increase funding for rural schools to the full 60 million recommended by the legislature's own Rural Schools Commission. For those of us who are not interested in revenue through development, this is the alternative, and it may be a much more viable alternative than anything else we have anyway.
They've never come close. I think they mostly did is 12 or 16 million out of the 60. It's pretty outrageous. And
So that's that.
I just got a quick update.
Yeah.
Because I think last meeting, Steve wasn't sure if he was running again, but Steve told me he's running. So since he's not here,
Oh.
so he and I are running.
Awesome.
I
Thank
did
you.
reach out. I did reach out to Jesse Brogan to ask, because you remember she came to a meeting and said she was interested. So I emailed her just because I was curious. I haven't heard back, so I don't know anything about the third slot.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, no, I called Steve about that like a week ago and he told me it was running. I just forgot about it. Cause I was like, hey,
That's because you're not doing nomination papers. It's easy to forget.
well, I mean, and it's like all this stuff with the town clerk. I'm like, how is anyone gonna get nominated? Is there gonna be a nomination night or candidate night? The select board's working on doing that, I think. Or
I
something
don't
at the
know.
library.
Mid-April they talked about.
Yeah.
Or late
Yeah,
April.
Okay.
April 25th is the plan for the candidates night.
Oh,
And it's gonna be at the library?
that's good to know.
It's not finalized, but that's the date they're looking at.
Beautiful. All right. Well, we don't have any unanticipated business, so in this moment, I would happily entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll
Okay,
second.
Okay. Take care of moves and Casey seconds to adjourn. And hearing no discussion, I'll call the roll.
I got a discussion point is that I really
Oh.
enjoy working with y'all, this really is a nice group, so.
Thank you, Keith.
I second that. Thank you. It's good. It's good.
It is good. It is good. I mean, I think I don't know if we're in our right minds going 3 hours tonight, but it's a robust robust conversation.
I'll give you context. When I was on school committee, sometimes we went to 1 in the morning.
I mean, I really like to cut it off at 9, but we just, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard when you got, all right, Dick Hero,
Aye.
Hasty,
Aye.
Hycroft,
Aye.
Seifert,
I
Weston.
Aye, and thanks for your leadership, Nathan. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm and I, we've adjourned. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. We'll see you.
Good night.
What's left of it?
Right, what's left of it? Yeah. A couple hours.